Welcome everybody. I'm visiting the Cooper's Pen community today at the invitation of Mr. Dennis Meadows and the team in North Trelawney. We know that this particular piece of land has a long history and a complicated legal history. And my role here is not to try and get to the bottom of that today. But what has happened here is a calamity, a humanitarian calamity. And the first priority must be to restore the lives of the households who have had their homes destroyed yesterday. The government has brought some tents and provided other very interim forms of assistance. And it's a start. But the permanent relocation of those who have been displaced, in consultation with them on lands where they can be permanently settled in a decent living condition, is critical at this time. And the government must proceed. The matter of lands falls directly under the portfolio of the Prime Minister as Minister of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. All of the land agencies of government fall under him. So he is in a position to expedite a solution to this crisis. And I'm calling on him to do so. Identify an appropriate location and make the necessary investments so that the people can be restored. That's the first issue. The second issue is the other households who are in jeopardy, because the demolition was not complete yesterday, and they have expressed an intention to return to complete it. Now, while the Cooper's Pen property has sections of it with formal titled houses, there is another section which has very well established homes, concrete structures, properly built, but are in jeopardy because they don't have title for that. The question is, what is going to happen to them? And I would call on the government immediately to begin a process of negotiation on their behalf to try and find a solution. The fact of the matter is that the last PNP administration did attempt to create a community under the Housing Act for these people. It was gazetted by the Minister of Housing. However, it was contested by the owner, and the matter went to court, and in the Court of Appeal, the matter ended, and the community didn't get any form of protection from the court at that time. So it remains to the government to find a solution for them. And I'm calling on them to do so. And time is of the essence, because as we've seen, the methods being used by this particular, whoever's behind this arrangement, are extreme. There's an allegation that the police were deployed in the wee hours of the morning. The young men were arrested and detained in jail in Falmouth until the afternoon. And during that period when they were away from the community, the demolition, supported by and protected by the security forces, took place. And as we know, elderly people have lost their homes, baby mothers, children who are going to school, etc., are all now in a very vulnerable condition. So the third point I want to make is a policy issue, and it relates to how private rights, as protected by the court, are enforced against vulnerable communities. There needs to be a mechanism to ensure that this sort of thing doesn't happen. We're seeing it too often, both on public land. There was Clifton, there was an attempt in Pleasant Hill, in the Wydus Vale area, in, I believe, is it Albion in St. Thomas? Homes were also demolished, and here at Cooper's Pen. So both on the public and private sector side, where you're going to be demolishing homes of people where there are vulnerable children, elderly, women, etc. It cannot just be that the law takes its course in a totally unregulated way without taking into account and balancing the needs, the rights, the Constitution and otherwise, of the citizens who are impacted. I believe there needs to be an inquiry into this process of how land rights are enforced in this country against residents who have been long-standing on the property. As we know, private property in Jamaica, there's a 12-year limitation period, where if you're in adverse possession for over 12 years, you defeat the title of the prior owner. But we have instances where people may have been living for much longer than that on property and are still not having their rights protected because they are not in a position to do so themselves. These are persons who lack the means to utilize the legal system because they don't have the means to do so. So there needs to be a proper inquiry into this with a view to coming up with a policy that balances the rights of our citizens, protects private property rights, but also protects the rights of the people who are vulnerable and who the state is there to protect. So those are the 3 points I want to make this morning, and I will hand over to my colleague. Isaac Buchanan is here from a human rights perspective. Lothan Cousins is here.